Okay, so today's video is about Emmet, just because we've noticed the Emmet quick prototyping feature is now really cool on Codepen. So when you're trying to quickly prototype something, it has like a little preview window, which is really fancy. I wanted to dip into that. Emmet's really useful, it's really quick, and it's one of those things that sometimes you might have just missed out on and not seen. So let's just cap that quickly. So quickly, what is Emmet? It's this kind of little plugin helper thing which helps you shorthand type out lots of HTML, CSS properties. It exists in VS Code and Sublime and most text editors. There's some sort of quick plugin which will do this for you. Basically the idea, if you want like a div, rather than typing out your angular bracket, div, then the closer, you know, that whole line, which can take you time, you can just type div and then hit tab, and a kind of smart autocomplete will know to just finish that for you and make the format, which is handy. But you can also then write div, you know, dot, I don't know, something, and the dot means that that's a class, like a usual CSS property, and then you've rendered with a class in it. And this can work for IDs as well. Need some original names. ID thing. So really handy once that becomes a second nature, once that becomes a muscle memory, that you don't just sit there typing out things, because once you've got the syntax, it just becomes very meticulous, very dull, just typing out these characters and these brackets and semicolons. So having something that will just help you prototype really quickly is helpful. This happens in CSS too, so you know, if I'm typing out the properties again, you might know off the top of your head what things you want really quickly. So there's lots of things like DB and then hit tab, you've got display block, or DIB, display inline block, DF, display flex, DG, display grid. Then something like P10 will give you padding 10, M10, margin 10, or like PT5 would give you padding top. So there's all kinds of amazing shortcuts for just quickly generating those properties. And again, if you're just in the habit of working this way, you're going to save so much time. FL, float left. I mean, you can probably find a good cheat sheet that will just tell you all the shortcuts and so on. You can go further. This is why I was particularly interested in this on Codepen, because you can type div, you know, dot container, and then using an angle bracket, it's now sort of beginning a nesting. So in there might be a UL, and at that point you see the preview window, which is going to show you what is going to be generated. So now you can kind of check your own logic while you're going. So we can have a UL, which is going to have a class of menu, which is going to have LI. You can do times 5, it will generate those, which will have in them a paragraph tag, which you can use these braces to use in a text. So like item, and then that dollar will give you an actual unique number in that iterator. So you can see we're generating item 1, 2, 3, 4, and attributes, I think. So like href, something like that, calls hash. There we go. So this little window will help you just check against what you think it's doing. But you can actually write something really complex, and then just by hitting tab, boom, I've built a massive amount of HTML really quickly. So if you can get in the habit of doing something like this, initially it's going to actually make you slower, because you're going to have to keep checking back, and you're going to have to unlearn your habit of typing out your angle brackets and these properties. But there's a massive number of things you can do. And again, if once you start making these the default, and you've set up your dev environment to work with these quickly, you're going to be so much quicker, so much more useful. There is for everyone though a sort of point of pause where you along the line with these, because you can optimize your keystrokes, you can optimize all kinds of clipboard settings, you can optimize all kinds of shortcuts and snippets and saved elements, and you can go so far down the line that you spend a whole lot of time just configuring things and trying to make all these things super shortcut based. And obviously there's also a mental load of you having to remember these things. Codepen's a good example, because then you're shifting out of your regular dev environment to a browser, and you won't have all your defaults there. So now you've got to unlearn those or spend time configuring those for a quick browser, there might be scenarios where you have to jump into a different dev environment than what you're used to. And if you've now suddenly learned a shortcut so intrinsically that you struggle to think in the original manner, you'll also create a problem for yourself. So I guess everyone has a point where they pause and sort of say, like, I've got some shortcuts, I've got some way of working quicker, but I don't want to just go nuts with this and end up shortcutting everything to the point of making everything too abstract. But I guess that's just a point of preference. That's all on that one. Thanks a lot, guys.